Hello everyone, my name is QuadLy and welcome to a quick video about looting warframes or loot frames, warframes that will get you more loot from the enemies. This is the fourth video of a 5-part series about star chart resource farming. If you haven't watched the previous parts, you may be a bit confused at some point, so I suggest you to see the other parts as well. But let's start now. There is 4 classes of the loot frames, sorted by the type of enemy they get the loot from. Most of the loot frames also need an augment mod, which you can get from 6 syndicates of Warframe, so I will tell you which augment mod that is. Now we will look at every loot frame one by one, how they work and how to get additional loot. There is 4 sources of loot by playing different classes: corpses, killing enemies, alive enemies, and petrified enemies. First, let's look at the Warframe that gets you more loot from corpses on the ground: Nekros. This one is probably the easiest to use. The only thing you need to do is mod it for as much range as possible, plus a lot of health. Nekros' third ability, called Desecrate, will recycle the corpses on the ground into loot with a 54% extra loot drop chance. You might first think that this is only a 54% better drop chance than usual, but that is not exactly true. If you use weapons that do more slash damage compared to the other status effects, there is a chance the enemies you kill will be slit in more parts. Every single part will be desecrated on their own, so yeah, a lot more loot. Also, the augment you will definitely need for Nekros is called Despoil. The normal Desecrate ability will use energy to recycle the corpses, but the augment mod will use health instead, which you can easily replenish since the Desecrate ability itself will give you health. You can get this augment from the Red Will or the Parent sequence, but yeah, that is it about the first class. Now let's go to the second class of Warframes, more loot from killed enemies. The first one is Khora. If you choose her, you also need to get yourself the Pilfering Strangledome augment, which you can get from Red Will or Steel Meridian. This augment will make Khora's fourth ability a hanging loot farm. Let me explain. By going into a mission and casting the fourth ability, the Strangledome, you will make a little dome around you with the enemies hanging in it. By killing the enemies, you will get 65% more loot. That is actually not that bad. The second loot frame that gets more resources by killing foes is Hydroid, our Davy Jones lad, which also has a Kraken. For him, you will need the Pilfering Swarm augment from either Cephalon Suda or New Loka. This augment will make Hydroid's fourth ability, the Tentacle Swarm, our Kraken, drop more loot from the enemies that are killed while being held by the tentacles. For real, what you need to do is just release the Kraken and kill everything that is entangled. It's not that hard. The last on the killing enemies for loot list is Wukong. For this one, you don't need any augments, you just need to try to die. When Wukong almost dies, he will not die but will get 3 buffs, one of those buffs called Monkey Luck, which will give you twice the amount of loot for 60 seconds. For real, this is a terrible way to go though, so just don't try to farm with Wukong. Now we're done with the warframes that get you more loot by killing enemies, so now we're going to go over the warframe that loots the enemies while they are still alive, Ivara. For real, this one is extremely easy, you don't even need any augments for her. The key is to use the third ability called Prowl. This ability will make you invisible and slow. You will not be able to sprint with this ability, but you will still be able to roll around, so yeah, just do that. For extra loot, 100% more actually, you just need to get close to the enemy and stay there for a second. That is it. That's it about Ivara. Now let's go to the last warframe that petrifies enemies, Atlas. His augment mod, called Orgaze, which you can get from Red Will or Steel Meridian, gives his third ability a buff, with scanning and also 25% more loot, which is just awesome. Just come to the enemy, use the third ability, and destroy it. And that is actually it. But now, the real farming comes in. If you are playing in a squad and take one warframe from each class, you may get a squad with loot overload because the looting warframe abilities stack. So for example, 1 Nekros from corpses, 1 Ivara from kills, and 1 Atlas from petrified enemies, and also obviously Ivara for the alive enemies. It is extremely useful to play smart like this. The only bad thing is that if you have, for example, 2 Nekroses in a squad, they won't stack. They just won't stack. So yeah, use different classes of loot frames. That is actually it. I hope this video helped you at least a little bit. to see the loot frames, how they work and stuff like that, for real, the best way to do is steal path and a full squad of loot frames. You will get so much loot, you won't have to farm anything from there for a very long time. But yeah, please like, comment, share, or maybe unsubscribe, and also have a nice day. Bye guys!